It started like most disasters do. Quietly. No explosion. No sirens. Just a strange stillness that crept in like fog, silent and sure. I remember sitting at my desk, tapping at my keyboard, the soft clatter of keys echoing through the open plan office. Outside, the rain whispered against the windows, and the smell of burnt coffee lingered from a pot someone had forgotten to switch off. By the time anyone noticed something was wrong, it was already too late. I was the systems architect for a tech startup called Brightforge. We were on the cusp of a major product launch, one that could redefine cybersecurity across the financial sector. Investors were circling, big clients were on board, and the buzz was electric. But buzz is fragile, and so was our infrastructure. The morning everything collapsed, I was debugging a module for the AI-driven intrusion detection feature. My screen flickered, then my monitor froze. For a second, I thought it was just me. Then I heard the clicks. Stop around the room. People started muttering, then panicking. What's going on? One of the junior developers shouted. I ran a diagnostic. What I saw made my blood run cold. A full systems breach. Every server had been compromised. Data had not only been wiped, it had been copied, mirrored, and sent. Somewhere, within 10 minutes, the office descended into chaos. Our CTO, Mark Pierce, stormed into the room, barking orders. His face was red with panic, veins bulging at his temples. He looked around until his eyes landed on me. What the hell did you do, Aaron? He snapped. I stood up slowly, stunned. What I did? Mark, I wrote the only protocol that's still holding up. This wasn't from inside. He didn't listen. None of them did. The board held an emergency meeting that afternoon. I wasn't invited, but I heard the outcome. They needed a scapegoat, and I was the easiest one to blame. The one who built the system. The one who supposedly should have seen it coming. By evening, my badge access was revoked. They fired me in front of the whole team. No severance. No explanation. Just a cold corporate goodbye. The people I mentored didn't even look me in the eye. I walked out into the rain with my box of things and my pride in ruins. My phone buzzed with news alerts. Brightforge suffers devastating data breach. Product launch halted. Stock dives 40. At home. I sat in silence. Just me and my apartment filled with shadows and silence. I checked the security logs again from my backup drive. The breach didn't come from anything I designed. It came from a backdoor only one other person had access to. Mark. He'd overridden my protocols to make a shortcut during a demo. I warned him. He said it would be fine. And now I was the one who paid the price. I didn't go online for weeks. I didn't answer calls. Friends disappeared. Opportunities vanished. And my name, once respected, was now a cautionary tale in tech forums. But I didn't forget. I didn't forgive. And I sure as hell didn't move on. Because I knew the truth. And deep down, I knew they'd come back. One day, when the weight of their lies became too much, when everything they built on top of my ideas began to crumble, they'd come crawling, and I'd be waiting 3 months later. I was still unemployed, not because I wasn't trying. I was, relentlessly. But every interview ended the same way. Smiles, nods, and then radio silence. Someone had blacklisted me. My reputation was toxic. And in tech, that spreads faster than code in a memory leak. One evening, while scanning a dead-end job board, I got an encrypted email. No sender, no subject, just a line of code in the body. While trust equals broken truth equals find. Attached was a zip file, password protected. I almost deleted it. But curiosity, it's what got me into this mess. And I guess it's what would keep me going. The password was embedded in the email's headers, hidden behind layers of obfuscation. Whoever sent it knew how to cover their tracks. Inside the zip, logs from Brightforge's core servers, ones I wasn't supposed to have access to. They'd been scrubbed from the cloud during the investigation. Except these were intact. Someone was helping me, and buried deep in those logs, I found it. A ghost process. A phantom string of code running independently of any authorized thread. It pinged a private IP address in short, encrypted bursts always between 3 o'clock and 3:05 a.m. Mark's shortcut had opened more than just a backdoor. It had opened a highway. I set up a watch point on the IP. If it ever went live again, I'd know. The next night it did. I traced it to a private server housed inside an office suite in downtown San Francisco. On paper, it belonged to a company called Stratcore Solutions. But that company didn't exist a year ago. And the building had ties to Brightforge investors. It was too neat, too connected. This wasn't just a breach. It was a cover-up. Brightforge had been bleeding data to an external shell company. And Mark wasn't just complicit, he was orchestrating it. They hadn't fired me because I failed. They fired me because I was getting too close. I needed proof. Real proof. Not just logs and hunches. Something undeniable. Tangible. And I needed someone who could help me get inside. That's when I thought of her. Lena Hart, ex-cybersecurity analyst. Brilliant. Paranoid. And the only person I ever met who could socially engineer her way into Fort Knox if she wanted to. I hadn't spoken to her in 2 years. But if anyone could help me bring Brightforge to its knees, it was her. I just hoped she'd pick up the phone. The phone rang on a cloudy Thursday morning. Evelyn stared at it for a full minute before picking up. The name on the screen made her heart thud painfully in her chest. Spencer Hayes. She hadn't spoken to anyone from that world in over a year. Not since the night they'd thrown her out like she was the reason for all their problems. Hello. Her voice was cautious. A wall built brick by brick over months of betrayal. Evelyn, we need to talk. Spencer's voice was dry, gravelly, like he hadn't slept in days. She almost hung up. Almost. But something in his tone stopped her. You're not serious, she said. After everything? There was a long pause. I know what we said, what we did, but it's bad, Evelyn. Really bad. We need you. 12 months ago, Spencer, Lena, Jacob, and Malaki, her so-called partners, had been riding high on their biggest project. A data platform meant to revolutionize predictive analytics. Evelyn had built the core algorithm, refined the UI, debugged, night after night. But when the launch shanked and investors started pulling out, the blame came swiftly. They said she sabotaged them, that she pushed a flawed build, that her silence during investor calls was suspicious. She was ousted in a closed-door meeting and left without access to any code, equity, or closure. Now, she stood in her modest downtown apartment, clutching the phone like it was some haunted object. Spencer's voice brought her back. Just hear me out. Please. Evelyn agreed to meet against her better judgment. They chose a small cafe in the East End, far from their old office. When she walked in, the atmosphere felt charged, like stepping back into a life she'd buried. Spencer looked older, exhausted. Jacob was hunched over a laptop, eyes bloodshot. Lena didn't even meet her gaze. Only Malaki gave her a sheepish smile, the kind that said, "Yeah, we messed up." Spencer stood. "We need your help fixing what we broke." "You broke it," Evelyn said coldly. "I wasn't even around for the real damage." They launched into the explanation. The system had evolved without her guidance. They outsourced part of the architecture, cut corners, patched things without testing. A major client government level was threatening to sue for breach of data security. The entire platform was crashing under weight it wasn't built for. "And you want me to fix it?" she said. Jacob leaned in. "No one knows it like you do." Lena finally looked up. "We were wrong, Evelyn." A silence settled, the kind that screamed louder than words. Later that night, Evelyn sat at her desk, staring at the old sketches she'd kept hidden away. Architecture drafts, algorithm flowcharts, UI mock-ups, all hers, all stolen in a way. And yet, here they were crawling back. She didn't want to help them. Every instinct said don't. But the situation had changed. If the system truly failed, it wasn't just a project imploding, it was a potential data disaster affecting thousands of users. And Evelyn had never been one to walk away from something she built. She made a list. Non-negotiables. Ownership. Apology. Protection from liability. Clear public acknowledgement of her role, past and future. Then she typed one sentence in her notepad. "If I help them, I control the terms." Every single one. The next morning, Evelyn returned to the cafe. She dropped a folder on the table in front of Spencer. "Here are my conditions," she said. Take them or leave them. He scanned them silently. Jacob blinked in surprise. Malaki gave her a small nod, like he admired the nerve. Lena whispered, "We'll do whatever it takes." Evelyn stared at them all. "Good, because I'm not coming back to fix your mess. I'm coming back to rebuild it my way." And just like that, Evelyn Rose, the woman they'd blamed, abandoned, and underestimated, was back. But this time, she wasn't here to help. She was here to lead. 3 years had passed since they turned their backs on me. 3 years since they whispered behind closed doors, tore my name apart in board meetings, and left me to take the fall. I had rebuilt myself from the ground up, not for revenge, but for peace. Or at least that's what I told myself. I never thought I'd see them again. Not in the way I did. It started with an email. The subject line was simple. "Can we talk?" I stared at it for a long time, heart racing. The sender was Jennifer, yes. That Jennifer, the one who led the charge to blame me. I hadn't spoken to her since the day she called me a liability in front of the entire team. I clicked it open. The message was short, almost desperate. "Hi Ryan. I know this is unexpected, but we really need your help. It's about the project. The same project I once gave my soul to and the one they ruined." My first instinct was to delete the email, block her, move on. But curiosity is a powerful drug. That, and a little voice inside me whispering that maybe, just maybe, this was my moment. Not for revenge, but for truth. I replied with one line. "When and where?" We met at a nondescript cafe downtown. I arrived early. Jennifer walked in 10 minutes late, her eyes darting like she was expecting someone to ambush her. She wasn't the composed, ruthless exec I remembered. She looked tired, smaller. "Ryan," she said softly, "thanks for coming." I nodded but didn't return the smile. After awkward small talk and 2 cups of coffee, she got to the point. "The project's collapsing," she said. "We lost our lead strategist. Investors are pulling out. And the board thinks bringing you back might stabilize things." I laughed, actually laughed. "So now I'm valuable." "I know we messed up," she said, eyes glistening. "But we were wrong. You were never the problem." I wanted to yell. I wanted to throw the coffee across the table. But I just leaned back and looked at her. "What do you really want, Jennifer?" She paused. "We need you to lead it again." I didn't say yes. Not right away. Over the next week, I met with the others. Liam, who had accused me of tampering with data. Priya, who once told me to my face that I was dead weight. They all apologized. Some sincerely, others with a practiced corporate smile. They had lost everything. And yet, I wasn't sure if helping them would heal me or open up old wounds I had barely stitched together. I walked away from that last meeting in the office building that once felt like home. My reflection in the glass door showed a man who had changed, who had endured, grown, and hardened. The decision lingered with me, heavy as a stone. Was this my chance to rewrite the past? Or would helping them mean betraying the version of myself that survived the betrayal? I had to choose, and the world was watching. The elevator ride up felt like a funeral march. I hadn't set foot in this building in 3 years. The same polished floors, the same faint smell of burnt coffee and air conditioning. But it didn't feel like home. It felt like a battlefield. And I wasn't sure which version of me had walked into the war. The doors opened with a chime. The receptionist gave me a nervous smile, like she wasn't sure if I was friend or ghost. "Ryan," she said, "they're waiting for you in the boardroom." Of course they were. As I walked down the hallway, memories swarmed. The day I presented, the first pitch, the long nights coding, debugging, dreaming. The day they turned on me like a pack of wolves. Every step forward felt like I was walking through my own shadow. When I entered the boardroom, it fell silent. Jennifer, Liam, Priya, and a few new faces I didn't recognize sat around the glossy table. They looked older, wearier, defeated, but I wasn't here to gloat. I took the empty seat at the head of the table. Jennifer cleared her throat. "Before we start, I just want to say thank you for even considering this." I nodded. "I'm not here to relive the past. If I come back, it's on my terms. No manipulation, no blame games. I lead, fully, There was a beat of silence. Then Liam spoke. "You have full control. The board has already approved it." That should have felt like a win, but it felt empty. The first week was chaos. The project was worse than I expected. Bloated codebase, unrealistic timelines, investor confidence at rock bottom. I had to fire 3 people in the first 72 hours. Not because I wanted to, but because the rot had gone too deep. But something strange happened as I dove back in. I remembered why I started this in the first place. It wasn't about ego. It wasn't about revenge. It was about the work, the vision, the thing we were building that could actually make a difference. And slowly, the team began to believe again. Not just in the product, but in me. Priya stayed late every night fixing data inconsistencies. Liam admitted he was wrong during a public investor call. Even Jennifer, to my shock, began asking me for advice with humility in her voice. It didn't erase what they'd done, but it was a start. 3 months in, we secured a new round of funding. A major publication ran a headline: "Fallen founder reclaims his throne." The article painted me as a comeback story, a tech world phoenix rising from the ashes, but they didn't know the truth. The real victory wasn't headlines or stock prices. It was the night I stayed back alone, staring at the whiteboard filled with plans, and finally felt peace. No more bitterness. No more proving myself. Just purpose. On a rainy Friday evening, Jennifer knocked on my office door. "Got a minute?" she asked. I gestured to the chair. "Sure." She sat down, fidgeting with a paperclip. "I wanted to say something. I should have said years ago," she began. "We didn't just fail you, we betrayed you. And the fact that you're even sitting here," her voice cracked. "You didn't have to come back. But you did, and you saved us." I took a deep breath. "I didn't do it for you," I said. "I did it for what we built, for the idea that we buried in politics and pride." She nodded slowly. "Still, thank you." As she stood to leave, she paused at the door. "Are we okay?" I didn't answer right away. "We're not enemies," I said, "but I don't think we'll ever be what we were." She gave a sad smile. "Fair." Months turned into a year. The project launched clean, bold, and alive with purpose. Users loved it. Investors lined up. We made headlines again. But this time, I controlled the narrative. I wasn't the villain anymore. I wasn't even the hero. I was just someone who got up after being knocked down and built something better out of the ruins, and maybe that's all I ever needed to be.